Earl Weaver told us when a guy would hit into a double play, or whatever, he goes, help us. I can't tell you the language, but he would, strike out, pop up, save us an out. So Earl knew that you only get 27 outs. So I'm all into analytics, but they're not the end all. In pitching, if you don't have a good windup and you can't throw the low and away fastball, which means you have a good windup, I don't know how you can be successful.
Hello, and welcome to episode 70 of the Irish Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Becker. You just heard from Hall of Famer Jim Palmer, who's also a member of the 2023 class of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. On today's show, you'll hear founder of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame, Shaun Clancy, interview Jim Palmer back in 2021 on the show The Crack and the Bat. What I love so much about this interview is that it starts with the state of the Orioles back in the fall of 2021, and Jim looks ahead at the success he hoped would be on the horizon for Baltimore. Of course, he has to be pleasantly surprised 2 years after this interview. As I mentioned, Jim Palmer is a member of the 2023 class of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. He joined Jim Leland and John McSherry in that 2023 class. Well, it's already time to start looking ahead to 2024. Dues-paying members of the Irish American Baseball Society are free to start nominating candidates right now, and gold members will be able to vote on who gets inducted next year. When you think about everything going on with the Irish Wolfhounds baseball team, the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame, and with all of the merchandise discounts and special events awarded to members, there has never been a better time to become a member of the Irish American Baseball Society. Head to irishbaseball.org right now to join in what we are accomplishing. Right now, I'm going to turn things over to Shaun Clancy as he talks to Baltimore Orioles legend, Jim Palmer.
Hi, I'm Shaun Clancy. Welcome to Crack and the Bat, which is a little interview section that we do for the Irish American Baseball Society. The Irish American Baseball Society is a society of Irish people who love baseball and baseball people who love Ireland. And I am delighted to be joined today by Hall of Famer Jim Palmer. Jim, thank you for taking the time to do this with us.
Well, you're welcome. My pleasure.
You're broadcasting the Orioles, which, having been Mr. Oriole, I mean, it's got to be tough to watch what you're watching now. But I mean, there's some good young players on that team. There's some. Do you see a turning point coming?
Well, I hope so. I mean, Mike Elias came over from the Astros. He went to Yale. Was a scout with the Cardinals. Went to with Jeff Luhnow, went down to Houston. He was, I mean, a lot of good stuff happened in Houston. A lot of bad stuff happened in Houston. But he came to the Orioles winter of 2018. So they're trying to rebuild through their minor leagues and draft system. Now, what does the draft system reward? Being very mediocre. They did it in Houston. Not all those, they got Bregman, they got Correa, they got McCullers who could fit today. So they did well in the draft. But, they also made a couple of mistakes and whatever. So it's not a foolproof thing. But you play in the American League East, you know that the Red Sox and the Yankees are going to outspend you. You know now with Rogers Communication that the Blue Jays, with a great young bevy of young talent, they got Rayu for $80 million for 4 years. They went out and got, Barrios from Minnesota. He's got one more year. So, everybody's going to outspend you. And then, Tampa Bay, who won 100 games for the first time and just got beat by the Red Sox, they're going to outthink it. So it's a tough division. But you're right. I mean, Cedric Mullins, first 30 player in the history of the Orioles. And the Orioles had a lot of great players. Matt Russell, Captain Swish in April and ends up being, hitting 33 home runs, the Rookie of the Year vote. Austin Hayes can play the outfield, had a really nice year, hit over 20 home runs. Urias is just a fringe player. Mancini came back from colon cancer. Maybe didn't have the year he had, back in 2019 when he had 35 home runs, but had a nice year. So they have some good young players pitching. It's very tough to pitch in Camden Yards. And they don't, John Means is the real deal. He's a really good pitcher, but they need some arms. So it's going to take a while, and, we'll see. And even when it's funny, when Earl Weaver who was my Hall of Fame manager, he never liked us to throw at guys. And the reason was not that, he had played, so he knew it hurt when you got hit, but he didn't want anybody on our team to get hurt. And when you get into those throwing battles, invariably somebody gets hit in the wrist or the hand or the head or the neck or, the knee or whatever, and they're out. So we had a guy, Grant Jackson, passed away, I think last summer, and he throws the ball up and in, and Earl raced to the mound. He goes, "Take a look at our third baseman. Is he better than their guy?" And he went right around the field, and all our guys were better than the teams we were playing. And then that's why we were in 6 World Series and 9 playoffs and whatever. It's going to take a while for the Orioles to get back to where they can be comparable to, an Aaron Judge in right field who had a great year or whatever. But hopefully they're on that road to doing that. But it's going to be through the minor league draft. And I think if you're a free agent pitcher, you don't want to go to Camden Yards to pitch because it's a bandbox. It is really small. There's only one pitcher's park in the American League East, and that's Tampa.
Yeah. So, as a former player, Hall of Famer, what do you buy into analytics? Do you think it has a part, or are you over whips and wops and all these?
Well, no, whips are important because that's, amount of walks and hits you give up per inning. So that's always, we used to always say, do you give up less hits than innings pitched? I probably walked a guy every 3 innings. Maddox probably walked a guy every 1.8 innings. I'm all for analytics if it's not the end all. The irony of the Orioles is I won my first game in the big leagues with a home run off Jim Bowden playing the Yankees. It came in relief when I was 19 and hit a home run to right field. And so I could hit a little bit, and I enjoyed hitting. Everybody does when you get a big hit. The year after we all won 20 games in 71, and I won 22 games because it seemed like every time I got a hit, I won a game because I pitched well and, a lot of close games and whatever. So, but Mullins had a great year. Mountcastle had a great year. Austin Hayes came from, being hurt to having a great year. And guess who they fired? The hitting instructor.
And coach.
So, and he's a fabulous guy. If somebody doesn't pick up Don Long, they're missing the boat because I don't, and again, this is all part of the analytics and the swing vest. I was talking to Don, and maybe this is the reason why you get let go, even though his young hitters really seem to, have great years. He said that there's more to hitting than just having a swing vest on and what launch angle is and all that. I saw Ted Williams tap his bat on the plate in 1969 when the Senators came down from Pompano Beach to play us in Miami. And he said, "Boys," and everybody ran out there, of course, because it was Ted Williams. He said, 6-degree upswing, and preferably get a good pitch to hit, preferably a fastball. So I don't think anything ever really changes. You still want to get a good pitch to hit. You don't want to swing at pitcher's pitches early in the count. What does the pitcher want you to do? He wants to throw strike one and then get you to swing at balls. So the guys throw strike one and aren't in the hitters' counts have a better chance of being successful. The hitters that say, I don't really have to swing till I get 2 strikes. I know my strength. Now, if analytics can help you, I'm all for it. But the amazing thing is, everybody talks about how important runs are. And, now what we have the 3 outcomes, we have either home runs, strikeouts, or walks, right? And if you go back, I'll give you 2 years since they started testing for steroids in 2005. From 2007 to 2021, runs per game are down. So you tell me how the new hitting philosophy is working. Let's get the ball in the air. Let's strike out. It's okay. Now, Earl Weaver told us when a guy would hit into a double play, or whatever, he goes, help us. Now, I can't tell you the language, but he would, strike out, pop up, save us an out. So Earl knew that you only get 27 outs. So I'm all into analytics, but they're not the end all. In pitching, if you don't have a good windup and you can't throw the low and away fastball, which means you have a good windup, I don't know how you can be successful. Yeah. And we had the highest ERA in the history of the Orioles this year, and the pitching coach stayed.
Do you think that there's, I'm hoping at some point that there's going to come, where they'll come, and not come to their senses, where basically they'll realize that scouting and plays every bit as much a part as the analytics. We're coming near the end. I have a question from one of our viewers, Ed Meerholz. I don't know, Ed used to be involved with the Babe Ruth Museum, and he was asking, he said, he wanted to know what your thoughts were. They said that, now a starting pitcher basically throws 100 pitches, or a lot less, maybe 5-6 innings, whereas in your day it was anywhere from 125 to 140. You usually went complete games on maybe 8 innings and then a reliever. Do you think this is because the money they're paying the starting pitchers, or is it the analytics with the like long relief, middle relief, designated pitchers roles?
Well, I think what he's probably alluding to is, even before you got into analytics are using the TrackMan cameras and the Rapsodo cameras where you release points and all that. Our cameras were our feel and our touch. I used to play a lot of golf with Jim Codd, who won 283 games, 16 straight Gold Gloves. He said, "Don't you?"
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he should be. And I want to be on the committee because one pitcher won more games for about 16 years in baseball, and that was Bob Gibson. And we know he's one of the all-time greats. So, with that said, Jim used to say, "Don't you think it's touch and feel?" What they look at now is what your batting average is the third time through the order. There was a great article about 10 days ago about Tyler Kepner, who wrote it in the New York Times about Adam Wainwright, why he's been able to be successful at age 40, because he can pitch. He's not a thrower. He's got a great curveball, throw it in any count, stays out of the middle of the plate, all the things that we were taught. Now, the good pitchers do that, but they just look at your batting average the third time through the order. And if they have a guy that has a lower batting average against out in the bullpen, that guy's coming into the bullpen, from the bullpen to pitch. But you've seen it, you saw it in 2019 with Houston. Their bullpen was exhausted, and they had Cole and Verlander and all those kind of guys. So at the end, the relievers will never, they're like gladiators. They're going to warm up every day and do what they have to do. You saw that, and you're going to see it in the playoffs. And now that we get to the championship series, get a little bit more time to take a breath because it's 4 out of 7, but 3 out of 5 goes really quickly. Tampa saw that, but they Snell's playing for Padres. Glasnow got hurt. Morton pitching for the Atlanta Braves. So they lost 3 really good starters, and they still won 100 games. So you can do it maybe for 162 games. But at the end of the day, I think when you play all the way to the end of October, because everybody said, when the Red Sox won in 2018, none of their starters pitched in spring training. And they said, we're saving them because, we're expecting to be in the postseason again. It's the relievers you need to give time off of because they're exhausted when the years. My first game in 66, when we won our first World Series, I threw 177 pitches, hit a home run. And they asked Harry the Cat Burkeen, our left-handed pitcher, had been a great pitcher with the Cardinals. What do you want to see Palmer do? He said, I want to get that pitch count down into the 140, 145 range. But that's, and I'd had a 5-inning and a 6-inning start in spring training in my first game in Fenway, where you're trying, it's Fenway Park, Yaz, and all those kind of guys. And, you throw 177 pitches because they let you, and that's what you did in high school or Pony League or Babe Ruth League in Hawaii or whatever, trying to win a championship. So and I'll leave you with this. I think anybody that pitched in my era, you learn so much about yourself when you do have to get Carl Yastrzemski and Carlton Fisk and Jim Rice out the 4th time in Fenway Park with a 1-run lead. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but now the analytics tell you, okay, how are we going to win? And I still think then they baby guys. One of the best young pitchers in baseball is Grayson Rodriguez. I don't think he threw over 90 pitches all year. Now, maybe that's the pandemic, maybe that's whatever, but this guy's going to be really good. But if they had told me, Jim, you only get 90 pitches in Aberdeen, South Dakota in 1964, I never would have been in the big leagues the next year because I learned how to pitch the more pitches I threw.
Wow, that's brilliant. You mentioned the Rays. The pitching staff that started the postseason for the Rays accounted for 7 innings of their entire last year.
Yeah.
Completely no. Jim, again,
they had five rookies or something like that.
None of starting pitchers. This has been a tremendous honor. I do have one last question for you. Your list of accolades is just tremendous. Is there one of those that you're most proud of?
I think the 20 games. I used to sit with Mike Flanagan, the late Mike Flanagan, on the first row of the bulkhead.
What a good Irishman.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, fabulous kid. And so he wins the Cy Young in 1979. It was 23-9. And, he had, a little ERA, a little over 3 runs a game. He had a couple really bad games, 7 runs in 2 1/3 innings. And he looks at me when we're starting in 1980, we're leaving Miami to, go start the season. He says, "How did you ever win 20 games 8 out of 9 years?" I said, "Well, you got to be a little obsessed, when the snow's on the ground or it's halftime and, when the Colts or whatever are playing, you put on your running shoes and you go run 3 miles. My youngest daughter, Kelly, used to go run with me when she was 7, and she only stopped once, and she ended up running marathons and things like that. It was a goal. Once you win 20, you got a $15,000 raise back then. Dave McNally had done that, and he got won 20 games. I think it was his first or second 20-game winner, and he got a $15,000 raise. And we go, hey, if we win 20, we can get a $15,000 raise, and that was always my goal. If you want a Cy Young, maybe you get an extra 5. That's how hard you had to work for your money back then. So it kind of drove you, and I think the ultimate thing is when the guy that just won the Cy Young Award looks at you in the next seat and says, "How'd you ever do it 8 out of 9 years?" But I think consistency, and that's why I never left the Orioles. We had great teams, and why go anywhere else when all you knew you had to do is figure out how to stay healthy, because you were going to have a chance to go to the postseason, which was kind of what Earl Weaver told us every year. We play together and play as one, and use our whole 40-man roster, and it was a great ride.
Awesome. I was looking at it. I thought you were going to say the fact that you never give up a grand slam.
Well, that wasn't too bad either. He once wanted me to, late in my career, wanted me to walk John Lowenstein to get to Al Oliver to load the bases up. And I told him, I handed him the ball. I said, "Here, you pitch. I'm going to go manage." He says, "Walk him." And I did. And I told Rick Dempsey, another Irishman, I said, "Demper, just sit on the outside corner. I'll walk in and run." Probably, I think about 6 or 7 years ago, Tim Kirchin, who used to write for the Baltimore Sunnies on, on ESPN, he comes down, and we're on the field early at Camden Yards, and he has a piece of paper, like that. And he says, "Cakes," he said, "the boys up in Bristol," that's ESPN, he's 13 names. He said, they said, "You won't know what these names are." And I looked at the piece of paper and I said, "Must have been the guys I walked with the bases loaded." He said, "I told him you would know." I said, "I don't really remember doing that. I just know that's the only logical answer why you'd have 13 names on a piece of paper." So apparently I walked with the bases loaded 13 guys. Oh. But if you're you don't have to be a math major to know that one's better than 4.
One's better than 4, that's for sure. So last thing, you just mentioned cakes. So you got that nickname because you like to eat pancakes before you ever start, a bit like Boggs on a chicken. Do you still like pancakes?
No. Well, I like them. I just don't.
Don't eat them like that. And did you are we just talking plain pancakes, or were you a chocolate chip guy, or?
No. But I will say this: I had blueberry pancakes at the the Sheraton Hotel where we stayed in Boston. They brought them, and I was going to try to make the bus and get to the ballpark and pitch that day. We won 17-3. So sometimes I had to go for blueberry pancakes because we got a lot of runs. It's hard to lose with 17 runs.
That's pretty good. Jim, I really appreciate this. Thank you again.
Oh, Shaun, my pleasure.
Listening. For doing this, we will send you a little package. You're now a member of the Irish American Baseball Society. And again,
well, it's funny. My wife, every time they do more and more refined DNA tests, they find out that I'm more and more Irish. I'm almost like 100%. And I told you you told me, how many cousins will I have?
Oh, you'll end up with, trust me, you'll end up with 460 cousins.
Well, do I have 1 minute to tell you one quick story?
Sure, you have as long as you want.
Pat, on the way, he lives up in Orlando. They had gone on a cruise. They're coming for Fort Lauderdale, and my wife Susan says, "Why don't you meet us at Emerald Dunes, Irish Emerald Dunes golf course, and we'll have lunch." So we're sitting there. First thing out of his mouth, because I don't really, he has a nice, this is what 4 or 5 years ago. So. "Jim, what happened in 1969? I said, what are you talking about, Pat?" He said, "Oh, the Mets. Didn't you lose the World Series to the Mets?" I said, "No, I put that out of my mouth." my mind. I don't like it never happened. I mean, the Mets had a great year, and we beat Seaver in the first game and then lost 4 in a row. And he tells me, he said, Jim, I used to come see you at Yankee Stadium. I said, well, you just told me you were Met fans. He goes, well, I am. He says, but I hate the Yankees, and you used to always beat them. So he would come every time I would come to New York, and then we ended up being cousins. But, he was good friends with Ken Ventura. He used to do all kinds of golf events, charity things. And actually, Ken would invite him to the Masters. Now, I played in Augusta. I played there 2 days, but never, obviously never there at the Masters. But he said he would actually go up with the tower, to when he used to be on doing the, I guess it was at CBS for years, 30 years or something like that. But he was really good friends with him. And he was a Gaelic football player. They actually went to Ireland, and he played in England. So he was quite an athlete. So it's, interesting. They'll come to Yankee Stadium, and, with all the protocols and all that, I'd have to go out before the game or after the game and, talk to them and all that. It's not like the old days where you can actually have people up in the booth. But it's really kind of nice to meet my cousins. But the more again, we're trying to test, the more Irish I've become, having my parents come from County Clare and County Leitrim.
Well, hopefully when the dust settles and stuff like that, we can maybe we can get you to come to Ireland with us. We're hoping to put together a couple of Irish American Baseball Society golf get-togethers where you can come and golf, and because there's some. I mean, the scenery is beautiful. And perfect weather for golf. You're a big golfer, and remember, the great thing about golfing in Ireland, especially during the summer, is it stays bright till 10 o'clock at night.
Aha.
So it gives you extra time to look for the ball.
More time to look for the ball, right? Yeah, exactly.
Again, thank you very much for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your off season, and hopefully before all is said and done, we can get together.
Okay, you take care.
Take care.
We will hear the second half of that conversation in a future episode of the Irish Baseball Podcast. I'm Rick Becker. Become a member of the Irish American Baseball Society today and play a part in the next class of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. Go to irishbaseball.org. This has been episode 70 of the Irish Baseball Podcast.